Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew this transparent bodysuit that you can see on your screen. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. The first thing I'll do is to take my points. The first point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. The next point is my crotch depth. To know your crotch depth, you are going to sit on a flat surface and you are going to measure from your waist to your hip, just like the picture you can see on the screen. Okay, so go ahead and take your crotch depth. Whatever you get, you are going to place it from the waistline. Okay, so once you get your crotch depth, I did that and what I got was 10 inches. So I placed my tape from my waistline, which is 16 inches, and I marked 10 inches downward. Okay, so after doing that, I'll go ahead and rule straight lines across all these points. The next point I'll be taking is my hip point. To do that, I'll place my tape on the waistline and I'll go down by 5 inches. Okay, so 5 inches is not the standard. If your crotch depth is more than 10 inches, you can do 6 inches. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement on the shoulder line. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches. I indicated the 8 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I'll slant from there into the neckline area. After doing that, I'm going to go down by my armhole depth. To get your armhole depth, you can divide your bust circumference by 4 and you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. Okay, mine is 8 inches, so I went down by 8 inches from the shoulder slope and I made sure that I have the same 8 inches on that point. Okay, and then I connected the two dots into a straight line. Next thing I'm doing is dividing the straight line into two equal halves. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches. I marked 4 inches. On that 4 inches dot, I came inward by half an inch. On my chest line, I'll take my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll indicate that with a dot. The next thing I did was to connect from the shoulder slope to the half an inch and from there to meet the dots that I have on the chest line. Okay, so go ahead and label your lines so you don't get confused. The first line is the chest line, the second one is the bust line, the third one is the waistline, the fourth one is the hip line, and the fifth one is the crotch line. So I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. On the waistline, I placed my waist circumference divided by 4, and on the hip line, I placed my hip circumference divided by 4. After doing that, I connected the 4 dots like this. So the next thing I'll do now is to go down by 1 inch from my crotch line, as you can see me doing. I'll mark the 1 inch. On that 1 inch, I'm going to come inward by 1.5 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to roll a straight line across. Okay, so go down by 1 inch from your crotch line and then come in by 1.5 inches. So after rolling a straight line across the 1.5 inches, I'm going to use this curved part of my ruler to connect from the 1.5 inches to meet my hip line like this. So the next thing I'll do now is to mark my neckline. I'll be doing a turtleneck for the neckline. So for the neck width, I'll be using 2.25 inches, and for the depth, I'll be using 3 inches. So it depends on the type of neckline that you're working with. Okay, so I'm going to connect from the neck depth to meet the neck width like this. After doing that, guys, that is all for the front pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. After cutting the front pattern, this is what I have. I'll use the front to cut out the back. So I brought another pattern paper. I'm going to place the front on this new pattern paper, but before I do that, I want to add zipper to the back of my play suit because the fabric I'm using is not too stretchy. So my zipper allowance is 1.5 inches. I marked 1.5 inches all the way to the end of the pattern paper and I connected the dots into a straight line. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to place the front after the zipper allowance, and I'll be using my tracing wheel to just trace out all the lines that I have on the front. If you don't have a tracing wheel, you can go ahead and redraft everything that you have on this front pattern paper except the neck measurements, the neckline measurements. Okay, so I'm going to trace like this. Everything that is on the front, I'll trace on the back. Okay, after tracing, I'll remove the front pattern paper. I know you guys cannot see it because I'm using a white pattern paper. What I'll do now is to highlight everything that I've traced using my pencil, as you can see me doing. So if you don't have a tracing wheel, go ahead and just redraft everything just like you did for the front. Okay, after cutting, guys, this is what I have for the front and the back. Okay, so go ahead and label your pattern paper and then trim off the front neckline. I didn't trim it off earlier, so I'll just go ahead and trim off the front neckline and I'll label my pattern paper. After doing that, you're going to place your pattern paper on your fabric and you're going to cut, and make sure to add your stitching allowance to the side because you know we didn't add stitching allowance while we're drafting. I've gone ahead to do that, guys, and this is what I have for the front and the back. So I added just 1 inch to the side for my stitching allowance, and on the curved part I added about ½ an inch because I want to turn it over using a bias tape. Okay, so this is the back piece and it is splitted into two because I'll be sewing my zipper to the back. Okay, so I'm going to remove my pattern paper, okay, and I'll go ahead and pin the fabric together. After pinning, I'm going to sew the zipper allowance close. Okay, I'll sew from the neckline to where I want my zipper to stop. I'll use a gather stitch, and from that point I'll use a the normal stitch to just sew all the way to the end. This is my front piece. I added the same 1 inch on the side and ½ an inch on this curved area, and the center front is on fold, so I'm going to open it up for you guys to see. So what I'll do now is to use my bias tape to just pipe this curved area and the crotch area. Okay, just pipe it up. If you don't have a bias tape, you can just hem all the way around. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew the zipper allowance close, and I've also used my bias to pipe the curved area and the crotch area. Okay, so this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place the front and the back piece right sides facing right side. Okay, after doing that, I'll join the shoulders using ½ an inch, and I'll join the sides using the 1 inch that I left as my stitching allowance. After sewing the front and the back piece in place, this is what I have. So this is how the front and the back crotch is going to overlap. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. So the next thing I'll do now is to fix the turtleneck. To do that, I'll open my zipper up. Okay, the part that I sewed using a gather stitch, I'm going to loosen it up, and then I'm going to open up the neckline and I'll measure from one end to the other, including the zipper allowance. Okay, so after measuring, I'm going to use what I get from this measurement to cut out a band that I'll be sewing around the neckline area. Okay, so I've gone ahead to measure, and what I got was 22 inches. So what I'll do now is to fold another piece of fabric like this into two, which is going to serve as the main fabric and the lining, and I'm going to mark 2 inches on fold. Okay, so I want my band to be about 1.5 inches after sewing, so I'll be using half an inch to sew. So I have the 22 inches. I'm just going to cut it out like this, and I'm going to place it around the neckline area and also. So there are other ways to cut out a band for the turtleneck, but this is the method I'm using. Okay, so after sewing the band in place, this is what I have. The next thing you do is to arrange everything in place, and you are going to sew your zipper to the back. Okay, just go ahead and sew your zipper to the back if you are not using a stretchy fabric. But if you are using a stretchy fabric, you don't have to sew a zipper to the back. The next thing I'll do is to cut my sleeves. Okay, so the length of my sleeves length is 22 inches. That is my actual sleeves length, but I went ahead to add extra 5 inches to my sleeves length. Okay, my fabric is folded into 4 because I want to cut the 2 sleeves at the same time. On this end, I'm going to go down by 5 inches, and I'll mark the 5 inches all the way to the other end. After doing that, I'm going to slant from the tip of the fabric to this 5 inches, as you can see me doing. The next thing I'll do now is to divide this slanted line into 2. I'll do that by folding my tape like this, and I'll mark the middle. After doing that, I'm going to curve. Okay, on the upper part I'll do like a D. Okay, I'll connect like this. I call it C and D. I'll connect in form of a D like this, and on the other end I'll connect in form of a C like this, not too deep and not too sharp. Okay, so after connecting, I'll place my tape on the C and D, and I'll mark all the way till I get my armhole. Okay, so my round armhole divided by 2 is 8 inches, and I added 1 inch to it, so I marked 9 inches. Okay, I'll go down a little bit and I'll mark my round sleeves divided by 2. I'll also go ahead and add allowance like 1 inch, so I'll connect from the armhole area to that point. And once I get to my actual sleeves measurement, I'll place my round wrist measurement divided by 2. Okay, so once I divide my round wrist divided by 2, I'll place it, and then I'll add 1 inch for stitching allowance. So I'll connect all the way like this. So for this extension, I want it to be open, so I'm just going to slant it. So it depends on how wide you want the base of your sleeves to be. Okay, after connecting, the wideness is about 8 inches, but it's too sharp, so I'm going to cut out the sharp edge a little bit. So first off, I'll cut off the excess fabric. Okay, just look at the way I'm cutting it. I'm following the chalked line, and on this end I'm just going to trim off this sharp edge a little bit. Okay, just so when I sew it's not going to be too sharp. Okay, so after trimming it off, this is what I have. So I'm going to notch the center of my sleeves, and I'll open the sleeves up. So the last thing I'm going to do is to fix my sleeves to my blouse. Okay, so you can sew the side of the sleeves first. While I was stitching my blouse, I didn't sew the armhole area. I left a little opening that I'll be using to stitch the sleeves to the armhole first before I close everything up. But you can choose to just sew it up, and then you pass it through and then sew all the way around. Okay, or you can go ahead and open the sleeves up, pin it center to center, and then go ahead and sew. Whichever one you choose to do, just sew your sleeves in place. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. So the last thing you do is to finish up the crotch area. So you can use press button, and you can use hook and eye depending on what you want to do. Okay, so for me, I'll be using hook and eye. I'll just fix to the 2 sides so it overlaps like this. So guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video. Leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.